Imagine going to bed on a quiet Sunday night, then waking up to a city covered in flames. People ran through the streets carrying their children. Horses panicked. Buildings collapsed one after another. The sky turned bright orange, even at midnight. Within hours, one of America's greatest cities became an ocean of fire. This is the true story of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, a disaster that destroyed thousands of buildings, changed millions of lives, and transformed Chicago forever. But one question has survived for more than 150 years. How did it all begin? It was October 8, 1871. Chicago was one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. More than 300,000 people lived there. The city was booming with new businesses, railroads, factories, and homes. But there was one dangerous problem. Most of Chicago was built from wood. Not just houses. Wooden sidewalks, wooden fences, wooden warehouses. Even many roads and public buildings used timber. After a long, hot summer with almost no rain, everything had become extremely dry. One small spark could turn into a massive disaster. Unfortunately, that spark was about to appear. According to the most famous story, the fire began in a small barn owned by Patrick and Catherine O'Leary. 4 generations, people repeated the same tale. A cow supposedly kicked over a lantern while being milked. The lantern fell into the dry hay. Within seconds, flames spread through the barn. But here's the truth. Modern historians believe there is no reliable evidence that the cow story actually happened. It was most likely a rumor that spread after the disaster and unfairly blamed the O'Leary family. The real cause of the fire remains unknown. Whatever started it, the conditions were perfect for disaster. Strong winds quickly pushed the flames from building to building. What began as a small fire soon became something no one could control. The flames spread with terrifying speed. A powerful southwest wind carried burning embers high into the air. Those embers landed on rooftops blocks away, starting new fires almost instantly. Firefighters rushed to the scene, but there was a major problem. Earlier that same week, they had spent hours battling another large fire and were already exhausted. Then, a communication error made things even worse. The first alarm reportedly sent some firefighters to the wrong location, giving the fire precious extra time to grow. By the time they reached the correct area, the flames were already out of control. People desperately tried to save what they could. Families grabbed important documents, money, food, and a few personal belongings before running into the streets. Some pushed wagons loaded with furniture. Others carried children in their arms while searching for safety. As the fire raced through neighborhoods, churches, hotels, factories, and businesses caught fire one after another. The intense heat became almost impossible to escape. Witnesses described walls of fire stretching across entire city blocks. The air filled with thick black smoke and burning debris. Then something even more terrifying happened. The fire became so hot that it created its own powerful winds. These winds lifted burning wood high into the sky and carried it across the Chicago River. Many people believed the river would stop the flames. Instead, the fire jumped across it. Panic spread throughout the city. Crowds rushed toward parks, open fields, and the shore of Lake Michigan, hoping the open spaces would protect them. Behind them, Chicago continued to burn. By sunrise, huge sections of one of America's fastest growing cities had already disappeared beneath smoke and ashes. And the worst was still yet to come. By the morning of October 9, 1871, Chicago was unrecognizable. Entire neighborhoods had disappeared beneath thick clouds of smoke. The fire continued moving north, consuming everything in its path. Brick buildings that people believed were fireproof began to crack under the extreme heat. Windows exploded. Iron beams bent. Roofs collapsed one after another. The temperature became so intense that some witnesses later said it felt impossible to breathe. Thousands of frightened residents fled toward the shores of Lake Michigan, hoping the water would keep them safe. Families became separated in the chaos. Parents searched desperately for their children. Neighbors helped strangers escape through smoke-filled streets. Meanwhile, firefighters continued battling the flames despite exhaustion. Many had been working for nearly 2 days with very little rest. Their equipment was limited, and the powerful winds kept spreading burning embers faster than they could stop them. Then, nature finally changed the course of the disaster. Late on October 9th, the strong winds began to weaken. Soon after, light rain started to fall across the city. It wasn't a heavy storm, but it was enough to help firefighters gain control. After nearly 2 days of destruction, the Great Chicago Fire was finally coming to an end. When the smoke cleared, the scale of the disaster shocked the nation. More than 17,000 buildings had been destroyed. Around 100,000 people, nearly 1/3 of Chicago's population, were left homeless. The fire burned across more than 2,000 acres of the city. Although the exact number is uncertain, historians estimate that about 300 people lost their lives. For many survivors, everything they owned had vanished in just a matter of hours. But even after one of the worst urban disasters in American history, Chicago's story was far from over. The fire was finally over. But for the people of Chicago, the real struggle had only just begun. Nearly 100,000 survivors suddenly had no homes. Families slept in parks, open fields, and temporary shelters.